Secret. I think I said it, secret. And no one's ever taught her really to watch the player's racket or keep an eye on the ball from racket to racket.
And so perception in this case is not just how I view something, it is that I'm viewing something. So the same thing with the big eyes when he was returning serve, similar to what Djokovic does, actual. I want to see the shoulder turn. I want to see the racket. I want to watch the hips. All those things you talk about are the things that I need to see to predict the future. To play the next point, to hit the next shot. What's a tip you got for me?
Tip would be to watch the racket. And then the other tip would be to try to have the perception of what you're doing to the ball affects their game.
I'm not going to play Medvedev or Djokovic or Federer, thankfully. Let's see if I got my unmute on. There we go. Let's try that again. We're unmuted this time, Justin, I promise. Hey, this is Sean with the Atlanta Tennis Podcast, powered by Go Tennis. Check out our calendar of Metro Atlanta tennis events at letsgotennis.com. And today is our 10 minutes of tennis with world-renowned tennis coach, Australian in Puerto Rico, Justin Yeo. And today he's got the shirt ready to go with the serious reminder that tennis requires tennis balls, just in case you forgot. But today we're not talking about tennis balls, Justin. We are talking about a secret. You're going to share a secret with us, and we're going to make sure it's no longer a secret. And I'm going to see how many times I can say the word secret in one word or in one sentence. So the secret today is what?
Secret. I think I said it, secret. No, the secret is, it's not really a secret. It's just people don't focus on it enough. And that's perception. I just did a lesson with a lady that's only been playing for a year. And no one's ever taught her really to watch the player's racket or keep an eye on the ball from racket to racket. So just really sort of basic perception fundamentals that aren't being taught enough, that could be taught regularly every time they're fed a ball. And every time they practice, they could practice it as well. So the players constantly using a reminder sometimes of perception. I know Djokovic is probably my best example. He always, on the return of serve, we see him widen his stance and then he opens his eyes and he's trying to force himself to literally look for the things that he needs to feed the nerves, feed the foot, feed the decisions, feed everything. So perception really is something that just doesn't get discussed enough, even at the lower levels or the higher levels, that we sometimes could do with a reminder. Sometimes a player will be like, timing's a little off today, or I'm a bit rusty. And usually it's they're just not seeing things early enough. And once they do, all of a sudden they turn it on.
And so perception in this case is not just how I view something. It is that I'm viewing something. So one of the things I learned young in my career, thankfully, was a phrase that I was taught in a corporate environment. The phrase is perception is reality. Now, in that case, it was more of advice in saying how you are viewed and how the situation is viewed. Doesn't matter what is actually true. It only matters how someone else sees it. But that's not what we're talking about here. We're just talking about actually trying to see. We're trying to perceive reality, right?
Yep. Correct. Yep. So literally at the end of the day, we've got to literally say maybe strategy as well. That's a bit of perception. Impression expression, which is what you're talking about, that helps perception as well, the perception of how someone's receiving you. So there are lots of different things there. Yes, that's correct.
Because in that case, I'm doing that. I think Agassi was the same thing with the big eyes when he was returning serve, similar to what Djokovic does. And that's just trying to get how much possible data can I get in at any given point. Can I perceive as much as possible? But here I'm looking for truth. I'm looking for actual. I want to see the shoulder turn. I want to see the racket. I want to watch the hips. All those things you talk about are the things that I need to see to predict the future, to play the next point, to hit the next shot.
Yes, absolutely.
And in that case, what is there a trick to doing this? It isn't just opening my eyes like Novak. What am I looking for? So it isn't necessarily just a secret. It is something I need to bring in. So the one time we really see it is return a serve. Is that obviously the starting point?
Yes, absolutely. Return a serve, looking from racket to racket, trying to stay in touch, trying to connect back and forth. Just perception wise, is again, it's just coming down to what you're looking at and trying to get those messages that you need to move, to predict, to make quicker decisions, to have those milliseconds faster, to get to the short ball. A lot of people don't literally see it because they didn't see firstly from the racket. They wait for the ball to leave the racket.
Say that again. What do you mean they wait for the ball to leave the racket? Where are you going with that?
Well, by seeing the racket, you can actually identify what they're going to do to the ball before the ball leaves the racket.
You're talking about watching my opponent's racket.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yep. Sometimes even just the perception of staying on contact for the player themselves, they're wondering why they're framing it, or they're wondering why they're not hitting their target, and it's merely because they're not seeing the ball on contact, which we all know we really don't see. But at least keeping it there keeps their head balanced. So, but we're sort of getting off perception there. Perception really is about reading things early to give you the milliseconds earlier, and that allows you to be a little faster or gives you more processing quicker so that you can make better decisions and see more tactical options.
So in that case, I really do need to know what to look for.
Yep.
What am I perceiving at any given point? And
Yep.
you had a good advice point a few conversations ago about watching the racket.
Yes.
And in that case, the racket, I'm not trying to see where the ball is going, is looking at the ball. I'm actually trying to see where the racket is going to hit the ball, which
Yes.
allows me extra time. I can see it ahead of time, and that gives me a time advantage, right?
100%. And it changes your processing. I keep trying to tell everybody processing time. Processing time means where I can broadly see the court and then I can narrowly see the ball. But if I can process things earlier, I can see more tactical options to make a decision. Sometimes that hurts, like pros, that hurts because we have too many options and we don't pick one, or we pick the worst one. But on the other hand, it's better to have that than to have the other way around and just be worried about hitting the ball because we haven't perceptually seen things earlier. Does that make sense?
It does, and it made me think of a player like, and I like to use the professionals as examples because if I use, Jim, that nobody knows,
Yep.
it doesn't work. But if I look at a player like Daniil Medvedev, watching him hit a ball doesn't tell me as much as watching a Roger Federer who does it perfectly. And in that case, I can know a little bit more to expect. What do I do with that player that is awkward or that does things differently? It's going to take me a little time to know what I'm looking at.
It's still just watching the racket. So they still know where Medvedev's going. As his racket face is coming through, they're picking up on it pretty early. Maybe with his feet and his stance and his variety could be more difficult, but you can still pick up on things early. And if you watch the TV, you can do a lot of that. You can put your hand over their feet and watch how their head moves as he makes contact. You can see a lot of different things perception-wise when a player's hitting a ball.
And so if you were going to give me one tip, and let's take this away for today to say, all right, in my perception, I'm not going to play Medvedev or Djokovic or Federer, thankfully, because that would be a short tennis match. But if I'm watching somebody, I've never played them before, which is usually what happens in league tennis. We end up playing against somebody else, and I've got that first 4 to 6 games to get to know somebody. If I'm really working on my perception, is there something you'll give me that says, okay, focus on these things to get that perception, to give yourself an advantage, and then hopefully by the middle of that first set, I should have something to work with? What's a tip you got for me?
Tip would be to watch the racket, and then the other tip would be to try to have the perception of what you're doing to the ball affects their game. So That's where we bring in the 3 dimensions: forward and back, side to side, up and down. There's not enough players. They're too busy in themselves just hitting the ball versus actually trying to figure out what their opponent doesn't like. And when you can do that, you can start to use your perception to your advantage and then use a tactical option to hurt their advantage.
That's what I need. That's what I'm looking for. This is why we do 10 minutes of tennis, Justin. This is good
That's
stuff.
it, buddy.
I appreciate it. Justin, world-renowned tennis coach, Australian in Puerto Rico. We'll see you next week. Thank you, sir. I appreciate your time.
See you, mate.